Have you ever wondered what happens when the line between life and death blurs? When the impossible becomes reality? Tonight, we dive into one of the most chilling medical mysteries ever recorded. The story of a surgeon who operated on a ghost. Dr. Evelyn Carter was one of the most respected surgeons in the world. With over 20 years of experience, she had seen it all, until one fateful night when she encountered something beyond science, beyond reason, something supernatural. It was 2:17 a.m. when the ER doors flew open. A patient had been rushed in after a car accident. The paramedics said the victim had no pulse, no signs of life. But as Dr. Carter approached the gurney, something felt off. Suddenly, the room grew cold. The instruments began to move as if guided by an unseen hand. And then she saw it, a faint, glowing figure lying on the operating table. It was a young woman, her face pale, her eyes filled with sorrow. Against all logic, Dr. Carter began the surgery. She didn't know why, but she felt compelled to help this mysterious patient. As she worked, the room filled with an otherworldly energy. The wounds glowed faintly, and the air buzzed with an eerie silence. As the final stitch was placed, the ghostly patient sat up. She looked at Dr. Carter, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you." Then she vanished into thin air. All that remained was a small silver locket. Inside the locket was a photo of the young woman and a man. Dr. Carter would soon discover that this man was her own grandfather, who had died decades ago. The ghostly patient was his fiancée, who had died in a car accident on the night of their wedding. Dr. Carter spent weeks researching the case. She discovered that the ghostly patient had died in 1953, the same night as her grandfather. But why had she appeared now? And why had she chosen Dr. Carter to help her? As Dr. Carter stood at her grandfather's grave, the ghostly patient appeared one last time. She placed a hand on Dr. Carter's shoulder and whispered, "He's at peace now, thanks to you." And with that, she was gone. Dr. Carter never spoke of that night to anyone. She kept the locket as a reminder that sometimes the line between life and death isn't as clear as we think. And sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that defy explanation. Dr. Carter's life continued after that night, but a part of her would never be the same. She carried the locket with her wherever she went, a reminder of the strange encounter that defied every medical principle she had ever known. Late at night, when the hospital was quiet, she would often find herself staring at the photo inside the locket. Her grandfather and the woman she had never met, but whose presence haunted her every day. The questions lingered, unanswered, swirling in her mind. Why had the ghost chosen her of all people to help? Was it a coincidence, or was there some greater purpose behind it all? As the months passed, Dr. Carter returned to her work, performing surgeries, saving lives, and continuing to gain respect as one of the top surgeons in the field. But the memory of that eerie night stayed with her. She would find herself glancing at the locket, as though seeking some answer that would make sense of the inexplicable. There were times when she would catch herself listening for the faint sounds of the surgical tools moving on their own, or waiting for the cold breeze to sweep through the operating room. But nothing ever happened again. The supernatural had slipped back into the shadows, leaving behind only the memories. But deep down, Dr. Carter knew she had experienced something that no one could explain, a medical mystery that transcended science and reason. She had operated on a ghost, and in doing so, had somehow connected the past with the present. The ghostly patient, the woman in the photo, had found peace. Her mission had been completed, and with that, she had faded away, leaving Dr. Carter with a story no one would believe and a question that would never truly be answered. What if the supernatural wasn't something to be feared, but something beyond our understanding, something that was merely waiting for the right person to help? Dr. Carter had unknowingly answered that call, and in doing so, had crossed a threshold between life and death that few ever would. She may never fully understand why it happened or how it all came to be, but she had learned that sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that don't have clear answers. Sometimes they are just meant to be experienced.